welcome back to another episode of Bombay Banter Club with four guys who love football. Today we're talking about our player of the season in the EPL. So we'll start with Nathan. Nathan,
Oh,
what have you got?
yeah, dude. My player of the season for this year has to be Jordan Henderson. It may be biased, it may be not a popular opinion, but yeah, dude. Jordan Henderson has to win the player of the season for me.
You
If
sound
you want to know
like you
why,
sound like English media.
why?
Sure.
You sound like the English media.
Why? Because they know the truth.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Who's your player
Uh,
of the season, Stallone?
For me, I think for a few like last season also there was like no like the player of the season is not necessary to come from the winning team, but the one who has played the best, like throughout the season for his team, for himself,
For his
and for
team,
a
Henderson,
lot.
yeah.
So
For
for
this
a lot
team.
of this lot for the majority part of the season, I thought that Sani was not Sani, sorry,
Mane.
Mane. Sadio Mane was great for Liverpool. Like he
Hmm.
used to score key goals for them and pop up anywhere and just create something. But there was a debate like KDB and Mane or Henderson, whatever. But I think the last game week, KDB kind of just settled that debate. Like who's the best player? Here it
I
is.
mean, if you're looking at the last 2 weeks, you shouldn't be looking at just 2 weeks, right? This is you're looking
No,
at
but
2 weeks
this is
after.
no,
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 no.
no. You're
He's
you're
been
saying
good
if
throughout the season, dude. He's
No,
been
I'm
good
saying you.
throughout the season.
Your point is that he settled the debate in the last few weeks. You're saying he settled the debate after Liverpool have won the Premier League by 20 points, been celebrating for 2 weeks.
Even
Are
even
you?
before
If you're
even
comparing those,
before the
I don't think
even before
your
the title,
analysis
he
should
was
be
good,
right
dude.
now.
Even
I'm
before
not
the
saying you're
title,
not,
KDB
but
was great.
dude, you just said that
So he
he
settled.
settled the debate.
I said he
hey,
settled. He
wait,
showed his
wait, wait, wait,
quality.
wait, wait, wait. Yeah, okay, cool. That's Stallone's
But
take.
yeah, but
Nikhil,
one
Nikhil,
second,
what about you? Wait,
one
Nathan,
second,
wait.
bro.
We'll talk, dude. Chill. Let Nikhil say his thing.
Dude, if you look at the, you just every time, you look at the who won the Premier League and who was the best player there and what was the difference that he made to the team, to the league as a whole. Also, Henderson this season has been outstanding, not by stats or by the assists or goals or all those things. It's about something that he gives to the team as a pushing. Because I've been following, when you look back last season also when Liverpool was just fighting all the time, that big win that they had in Anfield against Barcelona also. Henderson was always there pushing the team and controlling that team and do this, do that. When you look at that game, because when you see a player, when you see a club, maybe in Pogba at Man United or now Bruno, when the ball is not moving with the player, you see these guys giving instructions.
Off the
That's
ball.
when you know this is the guy who's ruling the team. It might standout performer might be the forward, standout performer might be the forward wingers, but then the guy who has the authority to do pass it there, bring it back, pass it to the side, keep the ball, do not attack now. Let's just pass it in the midfield. Things like that. Henderson, dude. Henderson just makes that difference in Liverpool, and that's why they won it. Like even last season, they fought it. Even Champions League. Henderson is that guy who keeps pushing the team. Like he makes that difference to the day, and he's definitely and what he does to the league also this time with the a lot of things. But then in the football on the pitch, Henderson has made that difference for the game. He's the best player.
Alright, so my take is KDB. So
And
I think
another
the
thing,
reasons are obvious.
uh,
I
okay,
think the reasons are obvious. The guy's broken records this season. He's stand out the best offensive player this season.
brilliant.
You remove KDB from City. City don't even finish like as badly as they finished behind Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I bet KDB walks into any team in the Premier League and instantly makes them better,
No doubt.
especially
But
with his
but
performance this season.
but that point,
But
what you're
uh,
making is a point based on talent, not on the way he's played this season.
no,
If you
but
say,
like calm down 1 minute. So the main thing I'm talking about here is when I'm looking for my definition of player this season, I'm looking for a guy who walks into any team with his
okay,
performance, not his talent, with his performance, and that performance will lift any team to a higher state than they were. And this includes Liverpool. You put KDB instead of Wijnaldum, Liverpool become even scarier than they are now.
so you're saying based
However,
on
if we do the reverse with Henderson, because of how like intrinsic it is to what he does to Liverpool, in the sense he's the leader for the Liverpool guys. He's the guy who's pushing them on. I don't know whether he can do that every single club. On one hand, you've also got to give that to the manager who's fostered a spirit of harmony where people listen to their captain, believe in their captain, and Henderson has gone through everything for Liverpool. I have mad respect for him. Since he signed from Sunderland, he was called a flop. Then people started rating the fact that he has a good work rate. And then people realized this guy is not a guy who brings you stats. He's a guy who's always going to be there for the team, never going to give up. Like Nikhil mentioned, the Barcelona games. The guy was always running the midfield, telling Liverpool when to attack or defend. I'm not so sure about that. But then, I've seen him in away games. His performance in away games, along with Fabinho's, has definitely picked up the most out of any other Liverpool player. But at the same time, I can't say he's the best player, man. It ties into a lot of what he does for Liverpool rather than what he can do individually.
If you apply the same.
One second. Arjun, what is your point for Kevin De Bruyne being the best player because he gets into another team and he makes it instantaneously better? Won't Trent Alexander-Arnold do that to any team? He'll get in and he'll put in 20, get you 12, 13 assists, 4 goals in a season. I think so. That for a defender. No, I mean for a defender. No, for a defender. Listen. For a defender to get 13 assists and 4 goals and 14 clean sheets, which is the second highest in the league. That's obviously if you're only looking on the way he's performed this season.
Dude.
One second.
Okay, finish.
Based on how he's performed this season, I think so. Trent should get a much bigger shout than Kevin De Bruyne because he's got 13 goals.
I'll tell you what the problem with that argument is.
And 14 clean sheets.
That guy's only on one side of the pitch. A fullback. Look, dude, he's performed in an outstanding manner for sure. He definitely would be my young player this season if that guy didn't win it last season as well. But dude, now when you're talking about Trent, the games that Liverpool have lost, now you'll also pull this back into the Hendo argument that Liverpool's lost when Hendo's not there.
No.
But then, dude, if you're realistically looking at it, now you're saying that this fullback contributed all this, and he had so many clean sheets. But bro, in the case of KDB, a lot of the stuff he did was individual. He didn't even need his team. So many times, dude, that was him on his own. In the case of Trent.
You're saying 20 assists. How is 20 assists him being on his own? An assist is passing a ball to another player who scores. Even if he isn't standing in front of goal, it's his job to be in front of goal to put the ball in. So how can you say it's an individual thing? He's putting 30 assists as a defender.
One more problem.
The ball guy is his ability. Yeah. It's the same for Trent. We saw it against a lot of teams where Trent will cross.
Yeah, so what?
Trent will cross it.
Trent got 14 clean sheets, which is the second highest in the league after Virgil van Dijk. Okay, that's because he sat out after we won the league for a game. Okay. After that, and Virgil van Dijk has played every game. That is, and Tarkowski is the other number on 15. He's got 14 assists, which definitely proves that you cannot get 14 assists and you can't defend. Obviously, you can defend, right? You're a fucking top defender. You're getting 14 assists. He's got 13 assists, 14 clean sheets, 13 assists as a defender. 4 goals as a defender. I don't know why, for a right back and a central attack midfielder, if you say 13 assists and 20
now you
assists,
tell me. Wait. Now you tell me. Nathan. If I put KDB into Burnley and I put Trent into Burnley, who has the bigger impact? KDB.
Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Okay, then that's something we can't. Okay, cool. That's your point. Tell us why Henderson's the best player of the season.
So your point is that if you don't judge a player on the team he's playing in, the season he's had, you judge him based on how you put him into another team and how he plays.
I am completely taking KDB's season this year and saying that he walks into any team with that performance and makes them infinitely better.
But the fact that if KDB is sitting on the bench, City cannot win is wrong. But if Henderson is sitting on the bench and Liverpool has difficulties, is correct. That's where there's a conflict.
Your comparison.
That's a straight fact.
Yeah, your comparison.
That's a straight fact because last season, what was the summer signing for City? Just Rodri. And Cancelo, who never played. So last season they had won the title without KDB the whole season. This season, KDB was just like, okay, I have a better player now in my team. But it didn't make a big difference to actually go and win the game. You need your defense.
What was the defense this season?
So you need to have a defense to be there. So that's what. KDB without City without KDB is not like they're going to lose.
No. What was the problem with City this season? Was it the attack?
No, it was the
I
defense
don't.
exactly.
Firstly, I don't think
defense.
KDB has been at the highest level this season. I don't think he's had an amazing season. I'm not saying he's not great. I mean, when he has the ball, you can see the talent he has. You can see the through passes. It's out of this
He's
world.
not
But
had a great season.
I don't think he's been that consistent this season.
That's scary, isn't it?
I'm sorry, what?
Breaking records,
That's
breaking
your
records
opinion. That's
without
fine.
being good.
That's great.
So you're saying, dude, Trent broke an assist record which he set last season for a
Okay,
defender.
Nathan, one more problem with the Trent argument is that
No, my point.
Trent and
No, one second.
wait. No, I'm trying to say something.
Okay, yeah.
One more problem with the Trent argument is Trent and Robertson are playing in a Liverpool team who create a lot from their fullbacks. Your style of play is where you all create a lot through your fullbacks. But if he goes in some other team, their style might not be the same.
But why you putting him in another team? He is playing in Liverpool. He is the best.
You said na that argument.
That's my whole point.
That he goes into another team. He won't have that much impact in another
put
team.
him into another team. Why would you put him into another team?
Because I'm trying to be unbiased. I'm trying to be unbiased. That way I can say that Oba was the best player this season because, bro, he scored 22 goals with a mid-table team. I can say he's the greatest, dude. That guy scored 22 goals in such a bad team.
Dude, that's not my point. My point is you cannot put Trent into Burnley and KDB into Burnley and say that who's going to have a bigger impact.
That's my vision of player this season. Last season's Van Dijk, I put him into any team.
But why you judging a player on how they? Yeah, my point is why you judging a player based on how he's going to play in a different team? Why you judging a player based on how he's going to play in a different team?
Most valuable player, best player this season. This guy is the guy who brings the most value to any team he goes to. This is the guy who you break your transfer record to sign. That's my vision of it. Your vision is different. That's fine.
So you're saying
you don't need to change one.
No, bro, but
that's precisely what you do.
Yeah, dude. My point is,
but
you're putting Kevin De Bruyne because he's breaking assists. He's got 20 assists. So has Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's got 13 assists, 14 clean sheets, and 4 goals. Why aren't you what is the difference between Kevin De Bruyne and Trent Alexander-Arnold?
Because Trent won't play good in another team. Trent won't fit into another team. Like I explained, Liverpool plays a style where he gets.
Yeah. But why does a player need to fit into another team when he is playing in a team which is winning the league, won the championship?
Because that doesn't make you the best player of the season.
Yeah.
Bro, what the?
When you look at the season, it's the entire Premier League.
Why? I'm asking you, why do you need to put him when you can see something? You are assuming how Kevin De Bruyne is going to play in Burnley. You are assuming how Trent is going to play in Burnley, right? Why can't you judge it based on how the season is right now? It's that simple, right? You can see how a season has panned out. You can see that he's got 13 assists. You can see Kevin De Bruyne has got 20. Why do you have to put him into another team to judge how his season has been?
Either way,
we all have our own judgments. Let's say.
Look, man, the way you guys play is your wingers are your main creative front. There's no much.
One guy tells me it's a.
So no, wait. When did I say it's a bad thing? Just listen. So what I'm trying to say is, when you take KDB and you compare him to Trent Alexander-Arnold, Trent Alexander-Arnold is not a bad player, by any standards.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Not a bad player by any standards. But then, bro, but the main thing that you have to look at when you say that Trent's got so many stats and he's got these clean sheets. If you talk about a weakness about Trent Alexander-Arnold, it's not going forward, it's going back. If there's a weakness.
It's defending, yeah.
But he's got 14 clean sheets in the season.
When you talk about the clean sheets and then you talk about him being the best because he got all these clean sheets and he got all these assists, those clean sheets have a big part of the other team as well. In fact, majority of it goes in your midfield and your defense for that.
So you're saying he doesn't have to do anything. Are you saying because he has a strong team around him?
I'm not saying he doesn't have to do anything. I'm saying he doesn't have to be the best in the league at his position at defending itself. To get those clean sheets.
There's another thing about...
So
basically you're diverting from the argument. Like, straight up, I'm saying that KDB had a very good statistical season.
Yeah.
Walks into any team with the kind of performance he gave.
But do you think
what is the thing about Henderson? Why was he playing this season? Because
about KDB being consistent, about that, recently just after the season, KDB had a podcast with TalkSport, and he was actually talking, and they asked him this thing where, what is the position that you think you play in Manchester City, or when you're on the pitch, even for Belgium, what is the position that you play? And the first thing that he said is that, yeah, I know people have this whole debate about, they say that I'm an attacking midfielder, but then to me, or to Pep, for my coach, I'm not an attacking midfielder. For me, it's all about, I'm a central midfielder who, you can also say in modern day football, they call it as box to box midfielder. So, my job is not really to always put the ball inside. So that's why people call me attacking midfielder, because I have the assist. But actually, my job is not that, because sometimes I go to the side and Mares comes inside. He literally said this. So that's when I start also thinking,
Yeah.
okay, that's where somewhere we all are lacking about what his role is. And he really said it. See, I'm not an attacking midfielder, even though I have the goals, I have the assists, because I get to those positions. But then he clearly said that I'm not really an attacking midfielder. I'm a center midfielder who's more of a box to box. And that's where that explained the whole KDB role. That, okay, this guy can sit on the bench, still City can go forward. But if he's on the pitch, definitely a difference maker, no doubt.
So being a box-to-box midfielder, wouldn't you say that's similar to what Henderson does?
But
Just saying.
you can not
What do you,
really,
yes or no? Like,
not really, yeah, somewhere, but not really. Because,
like that's
Henderson,
the same bracket
no,
you would
because
put both players
Henderson
in,
has
right?
to defend. In
Dude,
his job profile,
Henderson,
defending is
Henderson,
there. But KDB,
Henderson
So
has played central midfielder. He has played central defensive midfielder, which is just in front of the defense when Fabinho's injured for like 8 games. He's gone. He plays the attacking midfielder. Dude, at really important times in the season when you need to step up. So what I think is, if you're the best player on the team, you don't need to be like, if you're the most attacking player, you are the most defensive player. You have to pop up, right? You have to pop up at the important moments. Henderson for the Spurs game, I don't know, it was the 7th, 8th, 9th, one of the 8th week, I think so, 9th week. He's popped up against Spurs, dude. He scored a goal. We were we were like, Harry Kane had scored the first header which hit the post and he headed the ball in. Do you all remember that game? That was a really important week. Like, dude, those first
okay.
10, 15 weeks, he he was the person who was pulling us along the line. We weren't winning by 6 goals, 7 goals, 8 goals. Those were 1 goal victories. How do you think Liverpool won the league?
Okay, yeah,
It's
it's
because
interesting
of
you mentioned these 1 goal victories. All right, this is where I say Henderson wasn't the best player Liverpool. So, how many times have you won 2-1 this season?
Bro, are you asking me stats which I've not prepared with? How can you ask me how many times have we won
maybe
two
5,
one
6
this season?
games.
Okay, generally,
I
everybody
have no
follow
idea.
Liverpool, but like 8 or 9 times. I'm not saying I have the exact stat either.
Yeah,
But the
bro.
one thing I've noticed is all those 8 or 9 times, either Sane scored the goal or won the penalty, which he does not
Mane.
take. Yeah, Mane
So?
scored
Mane, Sane.
or won penalties. Yeah, my bad. Slip of tongue.
So
But
what's your
yeah,
point?
he's been the guy. He's been the guy who gets you the goal or wins the penalty, which he does not take for some reason. Even though he's got a very good conversion rate of penalties, he easily would have won the Golden Boot if he took all the penalties he won to. That's
See,
another thing. But
that's
see, the whole thing
dude,
is
those
now
are
if you're
all
talking about
assumptions. Those are all
people who
assumptions, bro. You
stepped
cannot
up in
just
Liverpool,
make
if you
statements like
really
that.
no, but you're making a statement where you're situationally looking at Henderson making one like performance where he stepped up. Well, there have been many
I'm
Liverpool
saying,
players who stepped up.
bro, I'm saying the entire
Like
Liverpool
even
team
if you
is
look
at a
at
higher level. But I'll tell you one thing. Have you ever heard, like, this season, the entire Liverpool squad, they've been calling them mentality monsters and shit like that.
Yeah.
That's their main thing.
Yeah.
It's not like they are the best attacking team. They've been amazing defensively, keeping clean sheets. The whole reason why Liverpool won the season is because didn't give a shit about what was going on in the game. They've had that killer mentality. And who has the biggest mentality in that team is Jordan Henderson, who gets the team across the line most of the times, not physically, not actually going and scoring the goals, but trying, always getting them in that perfect mentality. Jordan Henderson, bro. If you watch the games, you've definitely seen that. Basically, why I think Henderson is the player of the year. Uh, Firstly, he he can play any position, he can play any role that is given to him and play it to the best of his abilities. And then it doesn't feel like you're missing a player. You don't feel like you're missing Fabinho. You don't feel like you're missing another midfielder, basically. And he's obviously one of the best midfielders in the Liverpool team, one of the best players in the Liverpool team. He won the fans right FWA right player of the season as well. And yeah, so one point why I think he should win it ahead of Mane, Trent, and Kevin De Bruyne, who are the front runners, is because Trent has been at the top. He definitely should get a shout, but I mean, I can understand why you won't give it to Trent. I understand why you would want to give it to Mane. I understand why you want to give it to KDB. But I think the only problem with Mane and KDB is that KDB at his highest level is unstoppable. And if the fact that City did not win as many games and lost almost 9 games, more than United and Chelsea and many other clubs, that shows that Kevin De Bruyne wasn't at his best, because it's undoubted talent and undoubted quality which Kevin De Bruyne has, right? And that's not debatable. But I don't think he's been at his best, because if he was at his best, City would have been winning the league for sure, because there's no team, no defense, nothing that can stop Kevin De Bruyne at 100% or even 75%. So yeah,
Alright.
that's why
Alright,
I
Nikhil,
think
you.
Yeah. But when you talk about Kevin De Bruyne also as a player basis, what you said is right. They didn't, they were stoppable this season. But then the fact that Kevin De Bruyne, he as an individual has had an outstanding season. Probably, I think he must have had a best season of his last 3-4 years itself. I feel, because
you
he
think that
actually
stat wise or
not
like
yeah,
performance wise?
because when the team needed him, he always had those numbers for it. Because they had like some 10 games where they won 4-0 or above 4 goals
Mm.
this season. Defense was bad. That was the biggest mistake that they made, because they let company go and then they did not get an actual replacement. Actually, when you look at the start of the season, they always had Laporte and Stones. But then that injury actually destroyed the team. In October, I think October or November, Stones and Laporte was sidelined. And what did you have? Otamendi and Fernandinho. Bloody Fernandinho at centre back. And by the end of season, what was Fernandinho doing at that Chelsea game? I guess he put a handball. What was that? You are looking at a player who's top at DM. He was a top DM. But what the hell was he doing at centre back? And that's where you look at a player like, okay, defensively they were destroyed. Cancelo could not, get into the team again. That was also a bad transfer. Zinchenko
He's
had
a
a
top player, but
He's a top player. He could not
Cancelo.
get into the team. Zinchenko was injured. He also went back. So again, who was playing? Mendy was playing, right? Benjamin Mendy was playing. So that way, defensively is why they lost the season this season. Otherwise, offensively, they were always the top, man. 11 games, 4-0, I guess, 4 goals and above. So that is one outstanding statistic, man. Like, seriously. But then other than that, Henderson. And then, yeah, my best player is Henderson, because there's this difference maker that I feel who makes it to the team and makes it to the victory of the league is that Henderson, and that's why he needs the shot. Statistically or anything, he can play any position in the midfield and things like that. It's like a explanation, but then Henderson always was a standout player for the whole season, and he'll definitely win it. He should win it. He deserves it, basically. Anybody could win it, but.
Salon, who's your player? This
Okay, so for me, like I said earlier, Kevin De Bruyne, because I think no matter how like City have played defensive problems, of course, but I think he's been outstanding with what he's doing, what like the quality he's brought to the City team. Like Nikhil said, around 10 games with 4+ goals. I think how does that happen? And like Arjun said, he plays CM. Like I think Nikhil only mentioned that he plays CM, like alongside another CM in the midfield. But because City has so much possession, he has the like authority to go ahead and create. And when he does that, he's outstanding. He's the best. So I think, and this season he has been putting in the numbers and the performances. Not only numbers, but the performance, the way he does it, it's like crazy. So I think Kevin De Bruyne for me.
Say, I completely respect what Nathan said about Henderson and why he sees KDB to not be the most valuable player or the player of the season this year. But I feel like in one way you're doing injustice to a guy who's broken records this season and been as good as he has at what he does. I'm not saying he does A, B, C, D, E. He does A, and he did A very, very well. Best in the league.
gosh, the assist record you're
And
talking about.
in my opinion, when you look at player of the season, you look at the guy who has the most value to any team he works in. Someone else has a different opinion, that's fine. Who was the most integral player for Liverpool wasn't even Henderson for me. He filled a lot of roles, but for me and me only, it was Mane. For you, it might be Henderson for reasons that you've already stated. That's fine. Completely respect your opinion. But if I look at most valuable player, best player of the season, it's KDB. Outstanding performance this season. Offensively, City have been on fire.
Yeah.
Defensively, as Nikhil spoke about it, not replacing Company, the Jones, the Port, injuries, pretty much cost them the season.
Yeah.
With Fernandinho playing at the back, he's made a lot of mistakes as well. But Edison had a decent season, but defensively they were bad. KDB performed really well. They scored over 100 goals. They did well. He's my best player of the season. So yeah, those were our players of the season. Let's meet again sometime.